Fallen mode is one of the hardest challenges in Tower Defense Simulator. With stronger enemies and tougher bosses, beating it already takes a solid strategy. But today, we're making it even harder. Me and Nathan are going to try and beat Fallen mode with a special challenge. The rules are simple. We can only use beginner towers, with each person allowed one golden tower each. But we cannot use any consumables that affect or damage enemies. We can only use consumables such as damage flag or fire rate flag, but other than that, we have to rely purely on strategy and teamwork to survive all 40 waves.
Do you even think this is possible?
We're about to find out. I don't know.
Going into this challenge, we only had one strategy: breeze through the early game and survive long enough to defeat the final waves. We knew beginner towers as were surprisingly strong starter options, meaning the early game was the part we had to capitalize on. If we could build a strong foundation, we could have a chance later on. And thankfully, that's exactly what happened. Cruised through wave 1 through 15 with no problem, and our confidence was at an all-time high. But then, wave 16 arrived, and things started to get serious. We began facing enemies with much higher health, meaning we needed a lot more damage to keep up. Thankfully, this was something we prepared for. One of our strongest weapons in our arsenal was the Golden Soldier. At max level, it could deal over 100 DPS, allowing us to shred through both bosses and the smaller enemies supporting them. Meanwhile, Berserker focused on slimy troopers. Their slime attacks provided both splash damage and slowing effects, which had become extremely important because large hordes are one of the biggest threats in Fallen mode. After the early waves being no match for us, we reached wave 20. Up until this point, our strategy had worked perfectly. Our defenses were set up, our towers were dealing with every enemy thrown at us, and everything seemed to be going our way. But the mid-game was where things started to change. The enemies became stronger, the waves became more demanding, and we could no longer rely on just having a good setup. Every decision mattered. Now, we had to prove whether our strategy was strong enough to survive what Fallen had awaiting for us. Just when we thought we'd adapted to the mid-game, Wave 25 arrived. At first, everything seemed normal. The Fallen Jester appeared, and although he had a massive amount of health, our defenses were still holding strong. But before you could finish him off, one mistake completely changed the course of the run. The wave was skipped while the Fallen Jester was still alive, along with the three giants remaining on the battlefield. Suddenly, we were forced to deal with a new wave. Our defenses were already under pressure. A massive horde of zombies began pouring out of the gates, and we immediately realized the situation we were in. We tried holding the line, but we knew the damage had already been done. Our defenses were overwhelmed, and the enemies quickly made their way through. Our first attempt had come to an end as a failure. So yeah, um, that happened. We had actually been in a really good position up until that point, but one mistake was all it took. The worst part is we didn't even use any abilities before we died, so there was definitely a chance we could have survived. After the disaster, we locked in. We fixed our placements and started saving a bit more cash and made sure not to repeat the same mistake, obviously. By this point, things were actually looking pretty grim. We had most of our towers upgraded, our defense was holding on somehow, and we still hadn't completely thrown the run. Honestly, I wasn't expecting starter towers to make it this far. At this point, I was mostly just saving up for Golden Soldier, while Azurda had placed down all the towers he possibly could, so he was just observing and hoping that we could somehow make it through. Looking back, this is probably the calm before the storm.
Bruh.
If you know anything about fallen mode, you know that wave 35 is easily one of the hardest waves in the entire game. And let me show you why. Yeah, as you can see, you only have 20 seconds to clear the wave. And that's not even close to enough. And we were in serious trouble. Honestly, I generally thought that this is where the run is going to end. We had no support towers, enemies are flooding in, and I couldn't see any way we are going to get through this. Right?
Where did he come from?